A student can spend 3 hours playing a game, 2 hours scrolling videos, and somehow lose focus after 5 minutes in class. So what's really happening here? What if the absolute biggest challenge facing schools today isn't grades or behavior or even AI, but attention itself? Today, we're not just presenting facts, we're investigating a modern mystery. We're going to look closely at the evidence, follow the data, and try to figure out why focus has become such a rare and incredibly valuable resource in our world.
And that brings us to the core question we have to answer. Are students actually becoming less focused, or is the world just becoming significantly better at stealing their attention? Teachers all around the world are noticing the exact same phenomenon. Students seem more distracted than ever before. Most people immediately blame smartphones, right? They just say, kids today can't pay attention. But if you've ever watched a student completely lose themselves in a complex creative project or a digital world, you know that's not entirely true.
But researchers found that's only part of the story. Because let's look at the historical context. Every single generation panics about new technology ruining our minds. In the 1950s, people panicked that television would destroy attention. In the 1980s, it was video games. By the 1990s, the internet was the culprit. So it's super easy to just set up technology or lazy kids as the false suspects in our investigation. But the 2010s introduced something entirely different: personalized smartphones. They're portable, highly individualized, and available almost everywhere. That personalization completely changes the game.
And hey, let's be fair before we point any fingers at students. Adults often blame students for being distracted, all while discreetly checking their own phones under the conference table during a meeting. We literally all do this. Adults open their phones to check one single message and somehow end up watching a documentary about penguins or ancient Rome 20 minutes later. We all fall into these digital traps. It's a completely human experience, not just a student problem. Which brings us to our first major clue in this investigation.
Think about the sheer scale of what we're up against. Billions of dollars. That is what social media platforms and tech companies invest to understand and capture human attention. They employ brilliant behavioral scientists and engineers to optimize every single swipe, every click, and every notification. They are specifically designing algorithms to keep users engaged for as long as humanly possible. So when we ask a student to sit in a classroom and simply listen, we aren't just fighting their boredom. We are competing against billions of dollars of engineered distraction.
All of this builds into what researchers call our daily digital diet. The average person's brain encounters thousands of pieces of information every single day. We are bombarded with constant notifications, endless scrolling, and short-form videos that train our brains to expect a massive dopamine hit every few seconds. Today, students are exposed to more information in a single day than previous generations experienced in weeks. When a brain enters a massive digital battlefield like this, it naturally expects that same rapid-fire level of stimulation everywhere it goes.
But here's what surprised teachers most. The technology in our pockets isn't the only suspect in this lineup. Studies show there are other hidden attention thieves. For example, multitasking actually reduces learning efficiency and memory retention. Beyond that, students are dealing with increasing levels of anxiety, stress, and sleep deprivation. A tired brain naturally struggles to focus. An anxious brain struggles to learn. A distracted brain struggles to remember. These unseen factors are quietly draining a student's cognitive battery long before they even sit down at their desk.
Which brings us to the biggest plot twist of our explainer. The students with the strongest focus weren't necessarily the smartest. They were just deeply engaged in what they cared about. Consider this. A student will spend 3 uninterrupted hours meticulously building a Minecraft world, but struggle to survive 5 minutes of a traditional math lecture. This proves that students haven't lost the biological ability to focus. Attention spans aren't disappearing. If they were, literally nobody would watch a 3-hour live stream of someone building a virtual castle. Students have just become highly selective about where they invest their focus.
And this brilliantly illustrates our main revelation. Attention isn't disappearing, it's competing. For the first time in history, traditional classrooms are competing directly against the most powerful attention-grabbing systems ever created. Once you realize this, everything changes. Traditional lectures can sometimes feel slow and unrewarding compared to the fast-paced digital world. The classroom itself isn't broken, but the environment it exists in has fundamentally shifted.
So let's look at part 1, teachers redesigning the classroom.
So, what do we do about it? And the solution may have nothing to do with banning technology. Instead of fighting an unwinnable war against distraction, incredible educators are stepping up as learning architects to redesign the classroom. Great educators are doing 3 specific things here. First, they break lessons into shorter, more digestible segments. Second, they intentionally build in quiet moments for deep reflection, actually reducing distractions rather than just trying to be more entertaining. And third, they focus heavily on relevance. When you connect learning to real-world problems and future careers, engagement spikes dramatically. Students just want to know why a lesson matters to their lives.
Another incredibly powerful tool is the concept of brain breaks. These are intentional pauses that allow students to reset their attention before returning to academic work. Think of it like letting a wandering mind temporarily power down, allowing its glowing neural pathways to reconnect and recharge. You can't run an engine at redline forever without it overheating, right? These strategic resets effectively raise the student's attention meter back up to full capacity so they can actually absorb the next phase of the lesson. Alongside brain breaks, teachers are replacing passive listening with active focus builders. Instead of just asking students to sit still and somehow listen harder, they use quick discussions, collaborative tasks, movement activities, and problem-solving challenges every few minutes. By incorporating movement and collaboration, the classroom becomes a truly immersive experience. The students are actively participating in the creation of knowledge, which naturally commands their attention and keeps them completely locked into the present moment.
This brings us to part 2, a human challenge, not just a student problem. Let's zoom out for a second here. If fully grown adults with fully developed prefrontal cortexes struggle to put down their phones during dinner, how can we expect teenagers to flawlessly navigate these billion-dollar distractions? We can't. This is a human challenge. It affects our workplaces, our families, and our society as a whole. Because of this, the future of education has to evolve. Schools might need to actively teach future skills: focus management, digital literacy, attention control, deep work habits, and mindfulness. The most effective teachers aren't simply asking students to focus harder. They are teaching them how to focus. We have to give students the toolkit to protect their own minds.
Which brings us to a really profound realization. In a world specifically designed to distract us, the ability to pay attention is becoming the 21st century superpower. Moving forward, the ability to maintain deep focus might actually become more valuable than raw intelligence alone. Because the goal isn't to force students to ignore distractions through sheer willpower. The goal is to teach them how to take active control of their most valuable resource.
So, we've investigated the evidence, and now it's your turn to weigh in. Teachers, parents, and students around the world are all experiencing this challenge differently. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Is the attention crisis a student problem or a human problem? Have you noticed attention becoming harder to maintain? And more importantly, what strategies have you seen actually work? Share your perspective in the comments below. The most thoughtful responses may be featured in a future MindSpark Educ Explainer. Keep asking questions, keep exploring,